Hi guys, how's it going? Ivano here with another tutorial in our Introduction to PvP series. If you've watched the last video, then now you can properly see your enemies, which is already good. But if you cannot properly move your character, then you're going to have a hard time killing them. So today we're going to be talking about movement. This, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing that separates a beginner PvP player from an advanced PvP player. It's how to properly move your character, what to do and what not to do. Unfortunately, when you first start out, there's some kind of tutorial in the game, and this is mostly wrong. So if you've already learned to move your character like this, turning with the keyboard, then you need to forget everything you've learned and learn it new. Why is that? Well, because if you cannot properly move your character, I mean fast and precise, then you cannot become good at PvP. If you are going to use your A and D keys to turn the character instead of using the mouse to turn, you're going to be slower, you're not going to see what's going on around you, and you'll be an easy target in PvP. Okay, let's start with the basics. So instead of holding W to move your character, you're going to be using both mouse buttons and hold them down at the same time to move forward. Space is jump, but just know that jumping, while it's fun and has some advantages that we might get into in a later video, it is slower than just running in a straight line. So if you're in a PvP match, you want to go quickly from A to B, no need to jump, just keep walking in a straight line by holding down both mouse buttons. However, jumping over obstacles is of course faster than running around them. So always take the shortest distance from A to B. Good. By default, your A and D keys are going to be mapped to turn the character like this. Again, this is wrong because it's simply too slow. If I hold down my right mouse button, I can turn so much faster. And with a little bit of practice, you're going to get used to that. Let's say there's an enemy behind me. If I turn around with the keyboard, it's super slow. It takes like 1.5 seconds to do a half rotation. If I do the same thing with the mouse, it's very quick. Maybe it takes, I don't know, 0.2 of a second. And you can practice that, roughly see like how much you need to move your mouse to do like a half rotation. I don't know, you never really want to do a full rotation unless you're showing off. But yeah, you can just do these little turns. It's just going to be 10 times quicker than if you would do the same with the keyboard. Okay, so if you're running, keep both mouse buttons pressed and then simply turn with the mouse if you want to change direction. No need to use the keyboard for this at all. That means, of course, you have the left hand free on the keyboard to use your abilities, which is exactly why mouse turning is superior to keyboard turning. Okay, so how to apply this in PvP? Well, you can use this to quickly run behind an enemy and dodge a skill shot, such as the overload knockback for Sorcerer, for example. So you're fighting the Sorcerer, now you're running through them, turning around and attacking them, and maybe if you're lucky, you dodge a skill shot that way. Next up, this is the big one that I see a lot of players doing wrong in Warzones at level 80, and it's of course the use of the S key. The S key, this running backwards, you can see just from the video here that it's way slower than running forwards. You can also hear it. I don't know, it is about half the speed. This is called backpedaling, and you want to avoid this at all costs, because again, it's simply slower than turning around and walking forwards. So you want to avoid backpedaling at all costs. How do you do that and what do you do instead? First of all, you go to Preferences, Key Bindings, Movement. You find where it says Move Backwards, you go to the S key and you unbind it. Most important tip you will ever receive for PvP. Because not only does this build good habits or avoid building bad habits, because now your S key doesn't do anything anymore, it also gives you an additional keybind that we can use later to map an ability to. Okay, now that we have unbound our S key, the next important things you need to learn is what to do with the A and the D key. Since we're not going to be using those to turn our character, we're going to be using the mouse for that, we can change those keybinds, and instead of turn left and turn right, we're going to be using A and D for strafing. Now what is strafing? Strafing is very simple. My character is facing this way. Now I'm hitting the D button, and instead of turning, it will move my character sideways. This is very useful because now we can use mouse buttons or W to move us straight ahead. A and D to move us to the side. And now we have an easier time to doing some more advanced movements. Let's say I'm in a Void Star, this is my pillar, I'm playing a Madness Sorcerer. I'm a little bit too far away from the pillar, so I want to get here. Instead of backpedaling, what can you do? You can simply do a half turn and start strafing using the A key. And this is probably twice as fast getting to the pillar compared to using the S key and backpedaling. But now I'm facing this way. What if this guy is my enemy and I want to keep shooting him while I move back to the pillar? So what you can do in this scenario is you can hit an ability on him, and while the global cooldown is running, you can do a half turn jump and turn back in the air, use another ability. So again, we're gonna be turning our character, use the A button for strafing, jumping at the same time and turning back in mid-air as we land. This way, when you land and your next global cooldown is ready, you can use another ability instantly. And now you're close to the pillar instead of here, where you're more vulnerable. So let's demonstrate with these guys. Attacking him, jumping, attacking the other guy. And now I'm back here instead of here. Another demonstration. I'm in a bad position right here. I'm not at my pillar, but I'm hitting this guy, jumping back, hitting the next guy, jumping back, hitting the next guy, jumping back. Of course, you don't necessarily have to jump. You can also just attack them and keep walking back. So you can do something like this. Keep running. Keep running. And this is why strafing is important. So we're strafing using the D key. And keep spamming our attacks. Finally, another important aspect of movement is that you make sure that while you move and while you're doing these strafing turns, you can still see what's going on. So an important thing that you need to learn is that if you're strafing and walking to the side, you might still want to see what's going on here behind you. So let's say we are in a hypergate, the explosion is coming from there. I'm running away towards middle, but I still want to see what's going on behind me to see whether I'm going to get pulled or maybe I want to keep attacking these guys back here. What I would do is I would strafe, but at the same time, so I'm using the A key here, but at the same time I'm using the left mouse button to rotate my camera so I can see what's going on behind me. So I'm running this way towards the safety of the hypergate shelter, but I attack these guys at the same time. So let's say these are my enemies. I'm running away, but attacking them at the same time. And this is how you move and deal damage at the same time in PvP. Hopefully this helped. We'll go a little bit more in depth on kiting in another video, but for now these are the basics. So remember, move with the mouse, turn with the mouse, jump with spacebar, unbind the S key, don't backpedal, and try practicing these little half-turn jumps in order to do damage while you're moving. That's it for today. If you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.